Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Playing World of Tanks. I'm AJ, and today we'll be looking at a game that I had, number 13, which is the Chinese Tier 10 Heavy Tank. Now, I finally got a game that was respectable enough to sort of like show you guys in this tank. Actually, what I was trying to do was grind towards the third mark of excellence in this tank. I've already gotten 2, and this was the game I got the second mark of excellence in. And this was quite the nail biter. Even towards the end, I did not know whether we were gonna win or lose, but at some point I will, in some games you just want to cap, because if you cap, you lure the enemies towards you, where you set up to defeat them. You don't want to rush towards the cap when half of the enemy team is still alive and you're the only person in their cap, because that just screams, come and shoot me. But in sometimes that's actually a good thing, and this is one of the good examples. We're actually showing you what and when that needs to be done. Now on this map, which I actually still haven't gotten a good feel of, if I spawn south, I've been trying to sort of like go towards the 8-9 line, or sorry, the AB line on this map. Really the northern part of the map. I actually don't know whether those coordinates are right or wrong. But it's because, like, over here, this tank does not require that much gun depression to fight. The 113's armor is on relatively flat ground, and then you can make the best use of it. And it's a very potent gun. Now, the tank is very well armored at the front. Many people will underestimate how good this tank's frontal armor is, and they often pay for it. I also have the 1-1, and I can tell you it's not the same. The difference in their armor between the two is just not the same. The 1-1's armor is far worse than the 113's armor. Now I take a couple of initial shots. I make the IS-3 sort of like pay for going or rushing in front of me towards a very obvious spot. Now, I knew the IS-3 was trying to circle behind me from the other path that was on my left-hand side, but then I see the Yakmans are going there, so I double back to my original spot to take, to shooting any other tanks that are coming my way. Now, I come around, and then over here, I get to see an E75. Now, the E75 is in a very open spot where his top sort of like weak spot is exposed. Whereas I'm in the perfect spot where I can easily bounce shots from him. Here I load unnecessary heat rounds just because I could have penned him with the AP round. But at this point, I kind of like knew, since so many of our tier 10s were dedicated over here, and the city was basically left open. If you look in the south, we were gonna lose it pretty fast. So it was up to me sort of like to push the tempo, and I just couldn't like go around messing or missing shots. So very unnecessary heat rounds. I could have done the same damage without it. So, that's that. Now this T69, in his infinite wisdom, is actually firing HE rounds, and that's why you see the red circles popping up on the screen. But he is not gonna live that long. I basically get him around. I'm trying to like keep him in front of me so he doesn't flank me, and at this point I kind of like decided, even though I've like secured this flank, all these tanks are pushing ahead, I think it's high time I double back and sort of defend the base in case they try to cap, which most of the teams will actually try to do. Is once they get ahead and once they break through, instead of actually mopping up the rest of the tanks, what they will do is they'll try to go straight for the cap, which is a very bad thing, because that makes you very easy targets for your team, the one that you're on. Now at this point, I was still sort of like cautiously optimistic that we might win this game, because we are still ahead. It turns out to be a slightly closer game than what it actually is right now, and you'll see towards the end. Now doubling back, I'm thinking, that maybe the T57 is coming back. I see the T49 come back. He has the smaller gun. I put one shot into him, and the E50 on our team comes around and finishes him off. He gets tracked over there. I decided, I'm gonna go further and investigate if there are any of the tanks that were in the city that broke through actually are coming back. But on this rare occasion, the enemy actually doesn't. They turn around and start heading back in the opposite direction. Now, from what I have actually seen or what the tanks are spotted, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first try to take out the T-54 because he's in a very obviously weak spot, and plus I'm coming up behind him. It'll easily get to do damage to him. So at this point, that was my intent, and not sinking into the river, which many people have done, was my other intention. Now over here, I see the T-57 sort of like go back, try to put a shot into him, but it was really not really aimed that much, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time around, because at this point I have to deal with the T-57 who's nearly full HP, and also I also have to deal with a 183 who's nearly full HP. And in the 113, it's kind of hard to deal with two such obviously tough opponents without a lot of HP. Here I make my first mistake. I underestimate the reload on the 183. I go on sideways, I am aiming, and the 183 pens me. But I know at this point that the 183 has fired. He has 26 seconds of reload. I can at least put 2 shots into him, if not 3, with relative ease. At this point, I put my second shot in his lower plate, and then I back off, not wanting to take another shot from him. At this point, the enemy 183 actually takes some shots from our team, and his health pod is reduced. I decide not to stick around, and because the 183 is probably aiming in this direction, and there's no point in actually trying to sort of go in front of him and actually getting killed. So I decided, I'll take a chance and try to go around to see if I can flank him. The 183 fires, hits my gun, and it doesn't do anything. So the 183 knows that if he sticks around, he is a very dead 183, and he was running in front. But here's the thing, because the gun is damaged now, more or less, I will decide to fire heat rounds from this point onwards. And because of the reason is that after that I cannot actually aim for weak spots anymore. The gun is not that accurate to begin with. On top of that, the gun is damaged now, so my accuracy is double of what it used to be. So KV2 levels of accuracy is what I'm dealing with right now. At this point, I take out the T-54E1, and instead of going for the very obvious, like the straight line towards the 2 enemy tanks that are alive, who are pretty dangerous by the way, I decide to take the long way around into the enemy's cap. Now this was a big gamble. If the IS-7 had started moving towards me when I had been on this side, it would have been pretty easy for me to get caught out, maybe lose the rest of my hit points, and sort of like give an easy win to the enemy. But I decided that I'm gonna go the long way around into the enemy base, almost sort of like linking up with the Jagdpanzer E100, and then sort of like do something about it, because the Jagdpanzer is still fairly healthy, but I am actually not. If I get caught up by the T-57, I'm basically a 2-shot for him. So my best bet is to split the damage between, or sort of like the HP pool between the two of us, the Jagdpanzer and myself, and that was probably the best sort of like solution to survive. Now we know that there's only 2 tanks on the enemy team. I do not know where they are. I decide to go over the top in order to spot the IS-7, which I kind of like thought might still be around, but now I kind of like noticed that they're not there anymore. So at this point, I don't care. I'm in a good position where I think I can put up a good defense, and at this point I just go over here behind this ridge, use the dead light tank in front of me to sort of like cover my hull, and now we wait to see which way the 2 enemy heavies are going to come from. I poke out a little because I have a feeling that the IS-7 is going to come towards the city, and because he wasn't spotted, so I had a feeling that he was chasing me instead of actually trying to that he was chasing me instead of actually so I would think that since he saw the cap was, somebody was on cap, he would take the shortest route and try to get here. Now I'm trying to cover the Jagdpanzer E100 as he retreats, and I'm waiting for the T-57 to poke over that ridge. Again, I don't have the accuracy, so it's just going to be one of those things that I just have to wing. Over here, I decide to take a shot at the IS-7, but I also was mindful that if I took a shot from him, I might actually lose all of the stupid, all of the cap points that I've acquired. I bounced the first shot with the T-57. The second shot, don't know where that goes. I managed to connect the shot in the T-57 and then I back off. I managed to, one of my track eats one of the other shots and then he backs off. At this point, I don't know whether he was firing HE or heat. I'm guessing he was firing HE for some reason, or maybe heat, a combination of one or the other. But it doesn't matter much since now it's basically a 2-on-1. Since the T-57 was pretty far away, I did not actually chase him at this point because I was pretty sure he was gonna get to reload. And now since the Jagdpanzer E100 is in front of me on the cap, it is going to be very hard for the T-57 to reset this cap. The Jagdpanzer E100 actually does not have most of the hit points, or sorry, most of the cap points in this situation. I have most of the cap points. At this point, I kind of think for a second to sort of like go for the T-57, but then, you know, he doesn't have that many hit points anyways, and since I've had a good game, I'd rather just stay here and actually just make sure that we win this game instead of letting it go off on a chance. And that took out the T-57, winning us the game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Playing World of Tanks.